And I ain't hit no drop in a minute. No, I'm about my business.
Rappers Got Podcast, episode 17.
17.
This is your host, Diggy
Bailz Pagliacci.
And today we're here to talk about mixing and mastering and the importance of it in any music form. You don't have to be a rapper for that. It's important to every single music form.
Yes, indeed.
Bailz, when did you first get a song professionally mixed?
The first time I got a song professionally mixed, that's a funny word because anybody can say that they're professional.
Right.
Honestly.
I would say a song that you got that you got mixed, that you actually judged it and you said, okay, this sounds professional.
You.
That was the first time ever?
Yeah, because like I told you before, we talked about it off camera, but I've gone to a lot of different engineers. I've gone to their studios and I've gone and recorded music. I'm not going to say a lot. It was probably like 2 or 3 because a lot of times I do things by myself. But the 2 or 3 times that I did go out and do it, I got the mix back and it was just trash. And it was just like I tried somebody else and the mix back was trash. And I even tried the online service before where I sent the tracks, came back and it was trash. And it was like, it was just always trash.
Yeah.
And then when I finally started going to you, that's when I started feeling like, okay, there's a difference because it was a different dynamic as far as the relationship, as far as how you approach business, how you speak about things. So that's when I would look at something as being professional more so as, yo, come to my studio, I'm gonna mix your shit. I don't care how it really sounds.
Okay.
And then leave.
I think that what a lot of engineers get fucked up is that they treat it like it's just work and they treat it like it's not important. And like one mix to the next is like, there's no importance to the actual craft of it. It's just, oh, this is my job. And I think being a good engineer is understanding that like you're working with something that is passionate to someone.
Yeah.
Like you're working with someone's dreams and their passion. So like you have to also treat it like it's important, whether it's a good song or a bad song. And I think that my approach to mixing has always been that. But also like my approach to mixing is weird because I came from rapping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Like I don't come from it as like I wanted to be a career engineer. I never thought like that. So like I know how I'd want an engineer to speak to me.
Mm-hmm.
And I know how serious I'd want them to take my craft if I was still like doing that avidly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that that's why like my approach to it is different. But also like it's hard to find. It's like a barber. It's like, yo, just because someone is good at cutting hair or someone knows what they're doing as far as cutting hair doesn't mean that they know you.
Exactly.
Or like they're gonna like cut your hair well. And when you find that good barber that does exactly what you're looking for, you're loyal and you stay with that one. And I think engineering is very similar. Like what people need to comprehend about engineering and finding a good mix engineer is that every engineer has a particular taste,
Mm-hmm.
right? And everyone's taste is different. So you might find one engineer that like does trap music really well because that's just their taste. And then you might find that they don't do boom bap really well.
Mm-hmm.
And just because they're good at engineering and you're supposed to be versatile as an engineer and you're supposed to know how to engineer all these different things. And you would think that like, oh, vocals regardless are going to be the same thing.
Yeah, vocals is vocals.
Right. But like there's a different energy from engineer to engineer where some are like so interested in rock music that like that drives them. There's nothing worse as an engineer than mixing a track that you're not really feeling because no matter what you do, like you can't get in that groove. And a lot of like good songs that are mixed well are because from jump they had like that vibe.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So like mixing them becomes easier because you're like in the zone and you like get it. Where if it's a bad song, it's hard to kind of get around that.
Yeah, like I don't want nobody that like mix Bon Jovi. Well, actually, they kind of big, but still, you know what I mean? Like as far as like the rock.
But it would depend on what type of song you're going for.
And also depends on if they're even interested. Because a lot of times you'll see even when you're looking for an engineer, sometimes they'll even put like I only do pop or like I only do lo-fi or something like that. And a lot of times that's because that's what they're comfortable with. That's the kind of lane that they want to be in and what they're kind of more. And they'll take other things on, but then that's when you get my experience. It's like, I didn't like how this sounded at all.
Right, because they approached it like a pop song. I think that like what's beneficial of me and sticking to hip hop is that I've been making hip hop my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
So I know what you're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
I know what hip hop sounds like. I know what the popular hip hop sounds like.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I know exactly what the kids are looking for because I've heard the shit.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes my job easier to know that I'm mixing a genre that I'm very comfortable with. And it's not like boxing yourself in And I think that some people, when they talk to an engineer and the engineer's like, yeah, I solely do hip hop, they feel like, why would you box yourself into like one genre?
Yeah, one genre, yeah.
But really it's like, because I'm trying to get really good at that. Like
Yeah.
I just want to be really good at hip hop and be known to be a hip hop engineer.
It's like if that's your niche, that's your niche. Like why even try to go away from it? Yeah,
Right.
you can sometimes experiment and go outside of it because I'm sure you've
I've
mixed
done pop records. Yeah, I've done pop
probably
records.
rock records.
I've done
probably.
rock records. Just that's not what I'm trying to do.
Hip hop is where home is at.
Yeah, because
It's where you
I
love to
know,
be.
because I know what they're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
That's the difference. Like I don't necessarily know what a emo rock band is looking for. I can make it sound good,
Mhm.
but like, does this fit the genre? Does this fit what's going on in today's landscape of it? Like, I would have to listen to a bunch of different emo rock records
Just to
and
get a
just to
feeling
get
of
a
it.
feeling. And even if I listen to them, if I'm not necessarily a fan and I'm not feeling the music,
Mhm.
maybe I just don't hear it the way that they hear it. You know what I'm saying?
And I think that's something that's good about you because I've heard you talk about it before. Like sometimes if you get like a mix and you just feel like you're not going to be able to do the justice for it, you'll tell the artist like, oh, you probably may need to find some other mixing engineer that may want to do this for
I
you.
treat it the same way as when somebody asks me a question and I don't have the answer for it.
Yeah.
I'll look for someone for you.
Let me point you towards the person that you need to be speaking to.
Right. Like I'm going to try to find you the answer, but I don't think it's necessarily for me. You know what I mean? Like I just mixed the record recently and it's this crazy like ambient record with all these different drums coming in and out.
It's crazy. I
It's
heard it.
fucking insane.
Yeah.
But like personally, I don't know if I could continue to mix records like that because my heart wasn't into that mix whatsoever.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I could still make it sound good. Like
Mhm.
that's fine. Like as far as the sonics, I'm not talking about make it a good song. I'm talking about make it sound sonically
That's
good.
professionally
I
sounding.
could balance it to where when you play this in a car and then you go and play it on a speaker system, it's going to sound
Same
good
levels.
across the board, right? But that doesn't necessarily mean that like it's my thing and I should continue doing it
Mhm.
because I want you to find the best engineer for your particular sound,
Exactly.
and I want you to have good music. And if I feel like I can't do the job, I'm not going to sit there and act like I can. Because
And-
I don't think that it's not about just the money for me. It's also about like legacy and anything I do.
What
I
you're
want
building up
legacy
as
in
your
hip hop.
name. Yeah,
right?
as
I
your
want
name.
legacy in hip hop. I want legacy in engineering.
And I was just about to mention that. You know, when it comes to artists out there, just understand, once again, we talk about this a lot, but just because somebody's an engineer, a videographer, director, it doesn't mean that they're always passionate because some people are really just out here trying to get the money and they're just going to treat it as if it's just another project. That's cool and all, I guess, because, you know, I'm not going to sit there and try to say a person can't, you know, conduct business how they want to conduct business, or if it's working for them, it's working for them. But at the same time, if you're the artist, I feel like it's a better connection when you have a mutual understanding with the engineer, or you guys can have like a communication or just friendship, whatever.
Also, there's just chemistry. There's
Chemistry, there we go. That's
there's
what I was
just
looking for.
chemistry, bro. Like yo, me and Bailz are very similar in how like we conduct not only business but just conversations.
Everything.
We're very similar, so it's easy for us to work together because one, I know that like I could tell him a critique about a part of the song and I know he's not going to take it to heart and get offended by it. Where
That's
like
true.
certain kids, I know that if I was to say something, they would. And so I refrain from it,
Mhm.
but at the detriment of the song.
Because it takes away.
Because
And-
I know if they fix this one part, it's going to sound better. But I don't want to hurt their feelings because
Mhm.
rappers are prideful and rappers are very emotional. And you know, everyone pretends like they're the hardest thing
Mhm.
ever, but like realistically, a lot of rappers are
You come
emotional
at my
beings.
song, my heart be broken. But that's the thing. Like when it was come to me working with those other engineers, or when it came to me, you know, using the online guy, I had asked for revisions and shit. But at the same time, it wasn't like a personal connection where I could just hit you up and I'll discuss it with you. Yo, what do you
Right.
think about this? Like at this point, it's like, think of it like this. Who's Drake's
40.
40. And then Kendrick and them is Ali.
Mixed by Ali. Yep.
And I don't know who does Cole's shit. I think it's I don't know who does Cole's shit, but either way.
I'm not sure who does Cole. But another one is Alex Toomey mixes a lot of like Young Thug and 21 Savage and shit. So
them.
like there's these established engineers in the game that specifically work with certain camps.
Mm-hmm.
And although they do music outside of that, that's not who they stick to mostly. Like most of their mixing is done, or like their major scale mixing
Yeah.
is done for their particular
Like in-house, or I want
clients.
to say
Right.
in-house, but in-house,
And
yeah.
also, yo, if you want a Young Thug sounding song mixed professionally,
What did I go?
you go to Alex Toomey. Like if you have the money, you would go to an Alex Toomey, because why not go to the source?
Exactly.
Like you want to go to the source for these things. And like, I'm gonna be real, bro. I was on Mixed by Ali's website the other day, Engineers,
Mhm.
and for a Mixed by Ali song, and this is gonna sound crazy when you think about it in comparison to like your local engineers, but for a Mixed by Ali song with track out stems to get mixed, it's $1,500.
That's it?
That's what I'm saying. That's
get-
not that bad.
To get it mixed by Ali?
Mixed by Ali, up to 96 stems,
And I'm only going to send him like 10 or 12.
and that's what I'm saying. But you could stack it all the way the fuck up, because you know how he does Kendrick.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
you know how he has all these vocals coming from all over the place, and he does all this crazy shit. So like, I think that artists would benefit from saving a saving that 1,500 up and getting a Mixed by Ali record, because just to have that under your belt, like, yo, one of my records is mixed by Kendrick's engineer.
Yeah.
You don't understand the importance of that, and let's now bring that back into the initial topic of this episode, right? So the importance of mixing and mastering. Why can't you just record something on GarageBand, put some reverb on it, and then just throw it out? It's about translation. It's about taking that song and bringing it from speaker system to speaker system and making sure that it sounds clear on every single one, and not even just clear, it sounds the same on every single one.
Yep.
Like, yeah, there's speakers that have less bass, so there's going to be a dip out in the bass. But as far as the sonics of the record, it's still going to sound the same. And why that's important, rather than just, oh, it sounds good. Sync licensing.
Yep.
Like we talked about last episode. So if somebody wants to take your song and they want to put it in a film, if it's mixed properly, that becomes a very easy job.
Because if it's a shitty mix, they ain't putting it in there.
Right.
They ain't
If it
putting
sounds like
nowhere.
shit, they might even say, yo, I like the song, but it's mixed terribly.
Go get it mixed professionally. Or
Right.
we may know somebody that could to mix this for
Right.
you
And
and
then
do this
and
again.
that's going to come out of your pocket.
Mm-hmm.
That's not going to come out of their pocket, unless they really like the song to the degree where they're like, I need this in the movie.
Yeah.
So I'm willing to pay for the mix.
That's a
on it.
long shot.
But that is a long shot. Like you're lucky to even get that opportunity because you're making money
Facts.
off of it. So sync licensing. Then there's also when you put a song on streaming platforms, you don't want someone to go from listening to a J. Cole record off his new album and then listen to your new song, and there's such a quality drop off
Yep.
that it's apparent, it's clear as day that you're not a professional artist.
And if I could stop you right there, I'll use my example. Before I met you, or whenever I was having you mix my music, I was doing it myself. And granted, you can definitely learn how to mix per se, quote unquote, from watching YouTube videos, cracking wave plugins. Don't do it though, but I know you're gonna do it anyway.
Don't do it, but
Yeah, exactly. But I had learned how to mix and master, and it was like these other sites like Lander that I could just use and just throw in and have the master made.
I use
or like
Master.
Ozone.
I use Lander as well.
Lander, yeah. Like, so it was all these things that was at my disposal, and they were good, and I was doing it at a decent level for the first album that I put on a streaming platform. But then when I started getting my music mixed by you, I can tell the difference now as somebody who's really sat there and dedicated their time to the craft as far as learning how to mix and master, compared to somebody that's just doing it just because they felt like they needed to do it. There's a drop off within the music sounding from a year ago compared to now.
And what's funny is that our first mixes the first mixes of your records that I did, I was just starting up the studio. I was
Mhm.
just at the point of dedicating all my time to the shit. So from even 2 years ago till now, the quality has just
Complete
jumped up
different.
completely.
Yeah.
And I think that that's also big on, because I also was charging at a price that was accurate for those
The mixes.
for that jump in quality or whatever, right? Like there's been a price increase, but it hasn't even been that drastic. But it's still, I felt like what I was charging people was generous for my point in time.
Mhm.
I didn't think that I was that's another thing that happens in engineering. People overcharge, and then you get your song mixed by them, and you're like, this shit isn't worth it.
Because I ain't gonna sit here and tell you, I'm not gonna put your prices out there, but I was sending shit out to people for like $50, $75, and it's like 3-4 years ago, and it's like, the amount of quality of the work I was getting from you was like compared to that when I was actually spending the money. Like if I would have actually sat there and tried to invest time within that engineer, I'd have been just throwing away money, and because I'd have never been happy with how the thing sounded because there was no like once again no real relationship or anything that could like keep us on like a communication level about what's going on with the track.
See, I lucked out because when I was 18 years old, I started like releasing mixtapes. Like I was like making mad mixtapes, and I was recording everything on GarageBand, doing the shit that most new artists do, slapping reverb on it. Didn't have any understanding of EQ.
That reverb,
I didn't have any understanding of volume. I just was slapping reverb and I was putting it out. And I remember a kid that was friends with my cousin contacted me and he was like, yo, your music is good.
Mm-hmm.
The mixing is terrible. So you need to get this. And bro, I didn't comprehend what a mix was. So like, it wasn't like I was intentionally trying to put out a bad mix or I didn't know how to mix. So I was just mixing it. Like I didn't even know what a mix was.
Yeah, you just have this like preconceived notion of what it's supposed
like,
to
bro,
be.
I remember
and you just
the
go
first
in
time
there.
someone said like, yo, you need to put a de-esser. And I was like, what are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? So like I had no comprehension whatsoever. So like I was you guys. Like don't think that again, like this is not an elitist podcast where we look down on people who have no information. That's what you're here for. And basically like I get hit up by this guy. He tells me he knows of a studio in Belleville. So we go over to the studio. He's like, I'm going to take you there. I'll introduce you to the people. And the engineer there was solid. And bro, for the first time ever, and it's funny. This is another thing that's going to happen to a young artist. You're going to get your music mixed for the first time. You're going to become so used to mixing your own music and making it sound bad that it becomes comfortable to you to have this muddy and nasty sounding music. So now when you hear it clean for the first time, you're literally going to be like, what the fuck is this?
And perfect example, the first time that we started working together when it was for my Remy Strong, rest in peace, Remy. And I sent it to you, and this before we like had a relationship or anything. I sent it to you, and you sent it back to me, and that's exactly what happened. I did not like how it sounded because it wasn't what I was used to doing when I was mixing my own music. So then I went ahead and then I just mixed it myself, and I told you I was going to just tuck yours away. And then what happened? I released it, and then now that I've kind of got the ears for it now, that song is muddy. It doesn't have the same openness
or clarity
See, if you would have did it.
Even when you released that song, I remember because that's when I started a playlist on Spotify, and I was just putting all the songs I mixed. And I remember putting Remy Strong in that playlist, and then I'm listening to the playlist, and I'm like, man, I did that.
Yeah, that was me.
And I was listening to it. No, I realized because I was like, I know I didn't send because even like certain chops and like dropouts and stuff weren't there, and I'm like, nah, that can't be my mix. And I went back and listened to my mix. So like, I think comparatively, if you were to listen to them side by side, like yours versus the one I sent you, I think that now with a different palette and a different ear, a more mature ear, I think you'd be like, I should have just put this one out.
Yours made more sense, but at the time,
I get
that whole, I don't know what to call it, like I guess like
demoitis.
The demo, demoitis.
Artists get this thing called demoitis where they get used to listening to a rough draft or a demo, and they're constantly bumping that rough draft or demo, and it happens. I don't like sending out rough mixes. I hate that shit. Like when an artist goes, yo, could you just mix that down for me before I leave and send it to me? Because one, I think that some artists plan on not paying because they just want to take whatever they can get and then just put that out. And then two, like it discredits the engineer because, yo, say you do put that record out and someone asks, where'd you get this record mixed? Not knowing that it's a rough mix and it's a demo and it's not even meant to be out. They're going to judge the engineer off that work. And the engineer didn't even get their fair share of time with the record, and they didn't get to do their job. So artists get this thing called demoitis where they listen to this rough mix. And I think that when you get demoitis and then you finally hear something clear and clean and your vocal is standing out and it's cutting through the bass and all that, it's a shock to your ears. So it's hard for people to understand that like that initial mix wasn't meant to be put out. And it's also not even meant to really be listened to beyond the sense of, yo, this is an idea of what you have so far.
And I actually left a few studios before when I was going to other people. Like I definitely left out with those like
with
demos. The rough mix. And it was just like, oh, this shit is definitely extra trash now. I don't want to go back there. I'm not going back there to even try to give them any money.
See, but this is another thing. Like leaving with the demo and not comprehending that like the song's not mixed, that's another thing that happens where
Yeah.
like I'm not gonna put the blame all the way on the artist where they just don't want to pay and
Mhm.
this and that. It's also like sometimes the engineer needs to be clear, like, yo, this is just a rough.
Mhm.
So like what you're leaving with is not the actual mix. Every time I send out a mix, I title it Metro Mix 1, Metro Mix 2, Metro Mix 3. Every time I've sent people a rough, and this is very seldomly, I label it Metro Rough. I want it to be on the title, so when someone pulls this track up, it's very apparent
That's
that
a
this
rough.
is not the mix.
Quick question though. What's the what number did you ever get up to? As far as like the Metro mixes, like
Highest
Yeah.
number? Probably like 8 or 9.
was that me?
Nah, there was a pop artist who like little things, because I was also mixing the beat.
Mhm.
So like a lot like little things where he'd be like, yo, the snare, like, can you like lower the snare and shit like that. So like it got up there. But like bro, I intend to have your mix where you want it by the second or third, if there is that.
Facts.
You know what I'm saying? And a lot of the time, the problems that I receive like for revisions
Mhm.
are more or less like stylistic. It's never like, yo, what the fuck is wrong with my vocal? It's always like,
What's going on with your
yo, you
compressor?
did like a dropout right
Mhm.
here, and I don't really like the dropout. It's always stuff like that. Yo, you did 3 chops on my vocal. Can you take away the chops?
Mhm.
It's stuff like that
More
more than it's
stylistic stuff,
ever.
like you said.
Yeah, it's stylistic. It's never really like, yo, this sounds like shit, which I like. Like that means that I'm doing something right. You know, because like stylistic is every engineer is gonna have their own taste, and there's certain things that I hear where the artist might not hear it the same. But like for me, if I add a chop, it's because there's a gap, and that gap comes off awkward in the context of the music.
Mhm.
And that's happened with you a couple times where
Yeah.
like you'll be like, yeah, I don't like that chop, and then I remove it, and then you're listening to the song and you go, yeah, I get why you put that chop.
And I put the chop back.
Yeah, I get it.
Chop that shit back
Yeah,
up.
because sometimes like artists will like end a chorus, and then there will be like a second between the chorus and the verse, and there's just this space. That space in mixes is good, but like certain spaces, if they're really quick and it sounds like awkward from the transition, you kind of want something to bridge
to
that
fill
gap.
it in, yeah.
You know what I mean? So that's more or less the revisions I get. It'll be like, yo, can you just take away that reverse reverb or whatever you did, you know, stylistically.
And I just thought about this too, right? I wanted to, speak to the artist, especially for this one. Because, for the most part, you're speaking from the engineer point. So I also want to like speak from the artist point. I guess is music engineered
Yeah.
a lot. Mr. Famous, right? And by the time this airs, it's going to be over 100,000 streams, right? I feel personally that the song wouldn't have reached the potential that it had reached if I didn't get it professionally mixed.
And you know what's funny about that mix is that your chorus, like, you have a very bassy voice.
Yeah.
And it's hard to control that when you're also dealing with a song that has a lot of bass.
Mm-hmm.
Because
which we discussed.
you have this I don't want to take away the bass from the song too much and ruin the vibe of the song.
Mm-hmm.
And I also don't want to take the bass from your voice too much and ruin the vibe of your voice.
Yeah.
So it's this weird balance that you have to find. So like some people may listen to Mr. Famous and go, yo, the chorus is kind of bassy in the vocal.
Mm-hmm.
But also like that's who you are and that's what your voice sounds like. So I had to try to keep like a sense of that in there. And I'm happy with how Mr. Famous came out. And I think that 100,000 streams doesn't happen if it's not mixed properly.
It really doesn't. Because even sometimes when people hit me up about it, it was like, yo, who mixed this? And then I would say, yo, I sent them to like, this is the person that mixed it. And then even when it comes to listening to the song or when people listening to it, a lot of people think that I'm like a famous rapper or that I'm blown up because it sounds professional. So it just gives the illusion that I'm bigger than I really am.
And I love that you said that. Young artists out there, when you get your song professionally mixed, professionally, right? That word professionally, it makes you look professional.
Yep.
It gives off the idea that you are a professional artist because nothing screams amateur more than a poorly mixed song.
Yeah. Facts.
People will know that you're young in it, or they'll know that you've never done anything professionally with it. They know that you're not actually in the business of it.
Why sound like that?
Right. And that's the trade-off. So yeah, you might pay an engineer a couple $100 to get your song mixed. By paying that amount, you just gave yourself stake in the game. Like now
Leverage.
you are actually professional.
All it is leverage in the game,
And
man.
that's why I label my professional music career
Mm-hmm.
when I first started getting my songs professionally mixed.
Yeah.
Like at 18, I was with a good engineer.
Because that's when you start actually. The music is everything, right? So if the music sounds like shit, what can you do? But if the music sounds good, there you go. You're
That's
on
a
the next
fact.
level.
And I also never got treated as good as I also got like signed off the mix. I had 3 mixtapes that I did myself
Mm-hmm.
that sounded like shit. And then I went to that studio, and what I was bringing into the studio was an album that I was working on.
Mm-hmm.
And they took a liking to the album early on, and they wanted to sign me to like a 1-year deal, pretty
Mhm.
much like a 1 album deal. And I signed with them, and there was a combination of signing with an independent and then also putting out a professionally mixed project that gave people the perception that I was like there.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying?
No, I
People
know
started
exactly
to
what
think
you're
I
talking
was
about.
there because it gave them the perception with the signing, and I had people hitting me up. Yo, is it true you got signed?
Yeah.
Just that, and yo, here's the thing. Funny enough, in music, a lot of it is perception. Yo, someone could get signed to a small scale deal with a bigger name independent
Yeah.
label, and still it might mean nothing.
Yep. That's facts.
They still might be living with their mom. They still might be poor. Like, that shit does not mean you're rich, especially when you're with an independent. That means that there's no real money involved.
Yeah, because even people looking at, like, once again, we always talk about the streams. Like, people probably see, like, yo, I got upwards of like 180,000, 200,000 streams altogether. How much money is that? Yo, like probably like $700
Dog.
tops.
Yo, beyond that, I'm looking at, I think I watched like a Gorilla Black interview the other day with Vlad. Do you remember Gorilla Black?
Yeah,
He made
I
a song
actually-
called Compton. It was like
I
he was like a fake Biggie.
Yeah, I know
All right,
what you're talking about.
I was listening to a song by him the other day, and I think that it only had like 20,000 streams,
Mhm.
right? And I'm like, what's nuts is that when you bring that name up, most people who have been involved with hip hop for a long time or like fans of hip hop will know exactly who you're talking about.
Yeah, the new Gorilla Black is, yeah.
If I said Bailz in a room with a bunch of strangers, they might not know.
They won't know.
Little do
probably.
they know that your track has 5 times the plays that a song by him has.
Exactly. And that's the perception part.
And that's what
like,
I'm
wrapped
saying.
around, man.
It's perception. Like, yo, you might think someone is way more successful than they are. You might think someone is way bigger than they are. But it doesn't change the fact that like that whole startup process
Mhm.
stems from getting your stuff professionally done.
Yes, indeed.
Like, the fact that you could even have that conversation, yo, I have 5 times the plays of these big name artists. That comes from getting your stuff professionally done.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And also, like, I recommend artists try to be as self-sufficient as possible.
Yeah.
There are certain things that you just can't be self-sufficient with.
They have a name for it. I think it's called like talent stacking. I don't know. It's probably what the young kids are calling
Maybe.
it now.
I have
It's
no
like,
idea.
they're
But
like, yo, you got to do everything. You got to do your videos. You got to do your own photo. You got to do your own clothing. Which is,
I respect it, though.
Yeah, it's- 'cause
I
that-
do,
'cause
bro. I
it's-
respect that hustler mentality in all levels. But there's just certain things where, like,
outsource.
you have to outsource.
Dish that shit off. Ooh, assist.
Yo, even like if I need clothing done, I'm not sitting there printing the clothing myself.
Yep. Throw
I
that
know
shit
I
off.
could do it. I'm not unaware that I could print clothing.
But then how much time is that taking away
How much
from
time
the
is it
mixing
taking?
or just
How
in general
good
from
is
you
the
and your
shirt
life?
going to look?
Yeah,
Is it
exactly.
going to be of quality? Like, when I know
Yeah.
that there's these companies that I just upload a picture, hit send, and then it goes
I'm
through.
wearing one right now.
And then
That's how that
and then
shit
in a
is.
couple weeks I have my shirt.
Yep, that shit's fire, man.
You know what I'm saying? So like, there's certain things in life that you just have to outsource, whether you like it or not. And being self-sufficient is respectable, and I get it, but like, outsourcing is a part of business, and it's always going to be in business. There's only so much you can do as the artist, and that's why it's important to build a friendship with people.
And I tell Dig all the time, it's like, man, listen, I respect what you do because I couldn't sit here and do it because I understand how it is trying to go through mixes, and I can't even mixing my own music is a problem, but then having to deal with other artists and whatever their egos are, whatever the case may be, that's really, I feel like even when it comes to like music in general, it's always like a lot of unsung heroes. Definitely the producers, because once again, usually the beat is what's really making the song. Your words are helping the song, but the beat is what you get the feeling from the song. And then the engineers who are actually mixing the song make sure everything sounds good together. So there's always the unsung heroes. Everybody look at the artist, but then you always see artists saying, if it wasn't for my team or if it wasn't for the people that's behind the actual songs or behind the music, I wouldn't be where where I am.
I also think that engineers are criminally underrated in the game.
Yeah, no, they
I
definitely
think that everyone knows who produced Savage Mode by 21 Savage. I know they know it's Metro Boomin. I don't think that everyone knows that Alex Toomey is the reason why it sounds the way it
no
sounds.
fucking clue.
Right, and this is what I'm saying. Like, you're not even expected to know that. You're just expected to know the artist that's on the track and the producer.
Yeah.
Right? And even the producer doesn't get their shine most of the time.
Yeah, they just be on a wayside.
You know what I'm saying? So like, just realize that there's a lot of moving parts to it. Now you have your rapper who is obviously the standout and the main part of the song,
Mhm.
right? Your producer is very fucking important, and then your engineer is more important than both.
Yeah, because
really the song does not sound like that if the engineer is not involved.
yeah, I was about to ask that. So I don't know how the fuck the process works because I don't be paying attention to shit. But does the producer, like when they make the beat, they'll send it to you though to get mixed and mastered though, right?
Depends. Like some producers will, or a lot of producers that are online, like maybe they do have engineers, but I feel like a lot of them are just mixing it themselves. And the problem is that a lot of them don't know how to mix.
Wearing two hats at one time when you probably should only be wearing one.
Right. Like I think that a lot of producers online would benefit from getting down with an engineer and having them level out
mixed,
everything.
yeah.
Because I think that they're just going off of what they think sounds good. So what you get is you get an artist who comes to the studio and they found this super hard beat because when they play it in their car, it's knocking and the snares are mad sharp and they're clapping loud and you feel it, right? And then you don't realize that like the way that producer mixed that beat was as if it was just its own track.
We personally have found out a bunch of times with the beats that I select.
For sure.
Sometimes
I don't want to say names.
Yeah, I don't want to say names either.
I don't want to say names, but like,
you know,
Bailz comes through sometimes with some beats that are mixed terribly. And, you know, and it's not his fault because you're purchasing something online that you expect to be done correctly.
Exactly, yeah.
You as the artist, as a young artist, you don't know shit about shit. Like, you don't expect that you're going to purchase a beat from somebody and you just spent money on something that's mixed horribly.
Yep. No,
where the
facts.
drums are way too loud, where the snares are way too loud. And there's ways around it where I have to now go in and I have to fabricate. I have to scoop out frequencies.
Scoop.
And I got to do a bunch of stuff to the beat to make it sound professional. But so it's not impossible. I'm not saying don't buy beats online because these people don't know what they're doing. I'm saying that, you know, you could hear a beat and know that it's not professionally mixed.
Yeah.
Like, it shouldn't be that hard. When you play it on certain sound systems, say you play it in the car and it just sounds muddy, and muddy is a term that basically means that the low end and the mid-range frequencies
rumble.
are kind of like rumbly and clashing with each other. Because I also don't want to keep on saying terms that a young guy watching is not going to understand. And they're going to be like, what is he talking about, muddy?
It should just sound bad. That's what the fuck it is.
So it sounds like very bass heavy and just like round and not clean. Muddy versus clean. Those are the opposites, right?
Yeah. If you going in the house, your mother gonna tell you to take your muddy shoes off. She's not gonna tell you to take your clean shoes off.
Right. So you got muddy versus clean, and if you play a track in the car and you hear that it sounds kind of like drowned out and muddy, you could figure that that's not a properly mixed song, and therefore it's not going to be easy.
Might want to bypass that beat.
To use that beat.
Yeah, might want to bypass it.
A lot of what I used to
do
do when I was searching for beats online is look for a producer that has professional sounding beats.
Yeah.
Beyond just what the beats sound like. There's some beats that I have gotten in the past that are so badly mixed that like you can't even really use them. Because even though the vibe fits, the sample that they used and everything fits, it doesn't sound good when you combine the voice with it.
One of the things go ahead, I'm sorry.
All I was going to say further than that is like, unless you buy the track outs, then the engineer can only do so much.
I know you ain't buying no track outs either.
A lot of people aren't. And that's why like, yo, when people come through with a YouTube beat, and this YouTube beat is like all the way messed up and it's been converted 4 times. We've talked about this. We've talked about this before.
Yeah.
But like when they do that, they don't understand what they're doing to the engineer as far as like, yo, first off, this is the thing that always gets me. You're paying to get the song mixed properly.
Pay to get the fucking beat.
And you didn't pay for the beat. Like that payment to get the song mixed is an investment. You've invested in the record. You're expecting to make money back off this record. and you can't invest the extra to get the beat. It just doesn't make sense. Like, I would recommend, if you're going to go to a studio and record a song, get the beat.
Because, hey, listen, man, they out there with these copyright claims now. The Google and YouTube,
Fuck that.
everything's
Just
getting
have
smarter.
a clean song if you're going to get
Yeah.
it mixed.
Yeah, that's
like,
facts, yeah.
Like, yo, you don't want a song that sounds like shit from jump.
Yeah, because the beat, like, once again, like I said, your words are impactful, but usually it's the beat that people are usually vibing to.
Right. And if the beat is not clean or the beat's not hitting right because it was converted off YouTube, like, it defeats the purpose. So instead, maybe book less time at the studio. At my detriment, book less time and pay the extra amount to get the beat.
Mm-hmm.
Record one song rather than two. Pay for the beat.
So at the end of the day, you know, one of the things that we were just trying to bring home is get your shit mixed. I mean, I don't think there's any way around that. Get your shit mixed professionally. Find somebody that's an engineer that you can work with, that you can communicate with, your likes, your dislikes. And
so yeah, let's list off what we really talked about today. We're talking about understanding that a mix is important. We're talking about finding chemistry with an engineer, because not every engineer is going to get along with you, and not it's regular human beings. Just because they have a job doesn't mean that they're going to like you or that you guys are going to connect, right? So find an engineer that you have good chemistry with. Find an engineer who knows what they're doing, because not everyone knows what they're doing.
And specifically in your genre.
You could go to a barbershop and someone could be working there and they could fuck your hair up.
Bro, I'm not loyal when it comes to barbers. Bro, they took my corners off. Like, I'm just out here with an oval head, bro, in high school. Like, bro, what are you doing? Like, why you gonna take my corners off?
I've had barbers push my line all the way up. Like,
and then your shit growing back and it look mad crazy. You feel like you just came out of a swamp.
I've had all that happen. Yeah. So just because someone does a job doesn't necessarily mean they're good at it or that they know what they're doing. So, like, you should be able to tell that off the first listen. You'll hear if something sounds off to you. Don't think that just because they're supposed to know what they're doing means that they do. So find a good engineer. Find one that you have chemistry with. Realize the importance when it translates to sync licensing. Realize the importance when it translates to putting out your first project. Realize the importance when it comes to if your song has any chance of being on the radio.
And playing in a car, playing in somebody's headphones, some AirPods, some little C.H. Martin headphones. Right. It all matters, because you just never know who's listening on what. And
that's the main thing. Mixing matters. That's what you guys need to take away from this episode, is that mixing matters. It's not some background shit that, like, you could focus on later. The quicker you start getting your song mixed, the quicker your career starts.
That's the title. Mixing matters. I like that.
You like that?
I like that. Mixing matters, yeah.
All right, guys. This is This is Rapper's Guide Podcast, episode 17. We're signing out. This is Diggy Bailz.
Bailz Pagliacci.
Peace out, guys.